Okay, so yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction, Alex. So yeah, I was reflecting back on the year and a half since I started the company, and I really wanted to focus on what are the decisions that made me start the company. Because as Alex mentioned, I was kind of on a good track, like I had a really comfortable job with Borealis AI. That was also really exciting. So I called the talk "Taking the Dive." So at what point do you decide as an aspiring founder to really like leave whatever you're doing and take on the company full time? So first off, you need to start with an idea you want to solve. So that's kind of something the other speakers spoke about too. So any startup really needs to be founded around solving a key problem that clients or users have. And ideally, you're coming up with a really great solution to solve that. So for my own experience, that really came out of my PhD. I spent 6 years solving a really frustrating problem in the academic space, which was analyzing microscopy data. So these days with automation, different labs can generate hundreds of thousands of images per day, and that's really too much for any biologist to tackle, and a lot of the existing softwares really were tedious to use. So being at the right place at the right time, which is 2012, working in AI in Toronto at U of T, we became the first group to really apply deep learning to that problem, and we were greatly successful. The work was well received academically, even appeared on some journal covers. So for me, that was really the first step in validating that we were onto something really cool. But I knew from my previous experience that even though some ideas really take off academically, they don't really translate into industry so well. So the next step was really to validate with real customers and real people in industry. So I took it upon myself to travel to the NVIDIA GTC conference in California around 2017. And this is a really scrappy demo. I set it up a few days before I went. Luckily, like a friend out there let me borrow a monitor, so that's pretty much the demo I had when I was out there. But when I was there, I connected with tons of researchers, even VPs from pharmaceutical companies and from life science companies, and most of them were pretty excited about what we were doing. And one of them even became our very first clients. So soon after the conference, we started going into agreements with them. So with that validation, I came back to Toronto and decided it was time to leave the exciting job at Borealis AI and found the company. And that brings me to the next step. So once you decide to do that, it's pretty daunting. So what do you do next? And really, you need to have the right people around you. And this is both in your personal and professional life. So I like this picture a lot because one side has my wife, Goni, who's very entrepreneurial herself and currently in the MBA program at Rotman. And the other side is my co-founder, Sam, who, he took on the risk of moving over from London, UK to Toronto to join me. And it's actually from the first day of the CDL program, the Creative Destruction Lab program in Toronto. So this was really kind of the start of our journey. So with that support from them and also from the CDL program itself, we really started on this persistent adapt route, which is, was a lot of changes the first few months. We started off with an idea of how to commercialize the solution, the technology we had. We had to change that strategy a lot, and we're still kind of adapting every week and every month, as you can talk to my team here later, and they'll tell you about that. But really, that was the start of this long journey that we're still in the middle of. That brings me on to why anybody would want to go through this whole challenging process. So some of the other speakers spoke about this before, but realistically, you need a really deep internal motivation, and that could be something else for different founders. For me, I actually came across this quote from when I was trying to clean up my 6-year-old laptop. It was actually my PhD application. It was my ambition for following my PhD. So what I wanted to do following my PhD was lead an R&D team in industry or academia, like focused on biomedical science and biomedical engineering. And that's what I get to do today. So it's something I really love doing. We recently closed about 1.5 to 2 million in funding to really make this dream a reality. And finally, I'd like to give a shout out to my team. So we're very interdisciplinary with people with backgrounds in cell biology, software development, and machine learning. We're currently hiring on the developer side and the machine learning side, so please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or in person. The whole team's here. Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions?
So one of the questions that I had was, I'm just graduating high school, and one of the biggest challenges for me is being able to get the resources I need to, help me out with my idea, right? So what are some ways that, what was something that you would recommend, or like institutions that approach to get me access to these resources for a much lower price, just because the fact that I don't have money at all, considering I'm a student.
Yeah, I mean, at the high school level, I'm not really sure, but at the university level, like pretty much every university has a lot of support for startups. So I know Ryerson has DMZ, U of T has, I think in Toronto in general, there's 11 incubators. So they're all focused on different stages, and I think so. On-ramp at least is should be agnostic to where you're studying, or that's so you can at least get space. Funding's a bit harder to come by, but there are some government grants. There used to be one if I think if you were under 30, you can get quite a bit of funding, like a grant to get started. So Smart Seed, I think it was called. They might have canceled it. Hopefully it's still around.
Question over here on your right.
Hi there.
Hey.
So the question is a little bit complicated, but I'll try to make it simple. Is that you obviously had to come over through some challenges, like getting samples of data and the volumes of data, maybe 1,000 or 1,000,000 or whatever. That might be one challenge. Then getting the right technology, AI or ML or whatever, you had to learn to do that. And now, obviously you've been successful. You started a lab with a bunch of people. What you see now as the new challenges because you may have matured some of the processes or technologies which you have done.
That's a good question. So a lot of the validation and the initial data just came from the academic projects I was working on. Early on, we connected with industry partners and even other startups that provided some data that we could analyze. And one of the big pivots we made in the CDL was actually deciding to open up our own lab. So almost half our team is cell biologists, and we're in JLabs now actually running a lot of these experiments. So we're generating hundreds of gigabytes of data a week that we're analyzing ourselves, and that really added a lot of value to the company as a whole.
One more question.
Hi, just wanted to ask you, so personally for yourself, whom do you think are the big thought leaders, in the AI field, whom you personally like to follow and who inspire you? If you could name like the top 3.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the unique thing is we're in. The unique thing is the unique thing is we're in kind of the AI pharma space, and out of about like the 10 companies in the space, a few of the really strong ones actually started here in Toronto. So there's Atomwise, there's Deep Genomics, Cyclica. So luckily we could actually reach out to the founders of these companies directly, either through CDL or just through our own network. So yeah, those are the kind of founders I look up to. So Abe Hayfetz at Atomwise, obviously Brendan Fry at Deep Genomics, and Alex Norman.